Who's really getting the most out of a Selmer AS500 alto sax? And who would be better off spending that money elsewhere? If you're wondering whether this student-level instrument is worth the price tag for a gig-ready hobbyist, a high school band kid, or a beginner who just wants to see if the saxophone vibe clicks, you've come to the right place. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into the AS500, I kept hearing the same two worries from forums and music teachers. Will this sax hold up when you're practicing 6 days a week? And can a student model really give me a tone that doesn't sound cheap in a recital hall? Those are the exact questions you should be asking before you hand over any cash for a new instrument. The risk of buying the wrong sax is more than just a wasted paycheck. It can actually stall your progress if the instrument is either too finicky to play or simply doesn't blend with the rest of the ensemble. First, let's talk about who the AS500 is built for. Selmer's student line has always been aimed at players who are serious enough to want a reliable, professional-looking sax without the price of a pro model. If you're a middle school student who's already logged a couple of years of practice, or a college freshman who needs a solid backup for ensemble work, the AS500 checks a lot of boxes. The clear lacquered brass gives it a sleek, stage-ready appearance, and the nickel-plate keys feel solid under the fingers, which helps with the kind of repetitive motion you get in daily warm-ups. The included new mouthpiece is a nice bonus because many entry-level saxes ship with a generic, often leaky mouthpiece that adds another layer of frustration. Now, who should walk away? If you're a total beginner who's never even touched a reed, you might be better off starting with a more forgiving, lower-priced instrument that comes with a complete starter kit mouthpiece, ligature, reeds, and maybe a basic strap. The AS500, while not exorbitant, sits in a price range where you're expected to already have at least a few reeds and a decent strap on hand. Also, if you're a professional gigging player who needs a sax that can handle extreme dynamic ranges and intricate jazz articulations, you'll likely feel the AS500's limitations in the upper register and its response speed compared to Selmer's higher-end models. From a day-to-day usability standpoint, the AS500 surprises with a surprisingly even response across the middle register, which is where most school pieces sit. I heard a high school marching band director mention that the sax cuts through the brass section without getting lost, thanks to the engraved bell that helps focus the projection. For a student who spends an hour a day on scales, the instrument's key action is light enough to avoid hand fatigue, yet it has enough resistance to give that real sax feel you want when you start experimenting with vibrato. The included case is a used but sturdy hard case, nothing fancy, but it protects the instrument well enough for the usual bus rides to rehearsal. On the flip side, a few practical weaknesses emerged when I looked at what owners have been mentioning in the broader sax community. The AS500's high F-sharp is reachable, but the keywork can feel a bit stiff when you push into that extreme range, especially if you haven't yet built up the embouchure strength. That isn't a deal-breaker for most school repertoire, but it does mean you'll need to spend extra time on altissimo exercises if you want to explore advanced solos. The lacquer finish, while beautiful, is prone to small scratches if you're not careful when placing the sax back in its case. It's not a structural issue, but for a student who tends to be a little rough with gear, you might see a few surface marks after a semester. One of the hidden trade-offs that isn't always highlighted in product listings is the mouthpiece that comes with the sax. It's a brand new piece, which is great because you avoid the dreaded leaky mouthpiece problem, but it's a fairly standard factory mouthpiece that may not suit every player's tonal preference. If you already have a favorite mouthpiece from a previous sax, you'll likely swap it out immediately, which adds a small extra cost. Conversely, if you're brand new to the instrument and don't have a mouthpiece in mind, the one that comes with the AS500 is a perfectly serviceable starting point. When it comes to value, the AS500 pulls its weight primarily because of the Selmer name and the aesthetic polish it brings to the student market. Compared with other student saxes that sit in the same price bracket, you're paying a little extra for the engraved bell and the clear lacquer look, which can boost a young player's confidence on stage. The real money saver, however, is the durability of the key mechanism. Many students report that cheaper models need a key adjustment or two after only a few months of regular use, whereas the nickel plate keys,